Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to you, Dr. Izan. So today I would like to present my research entitled Visually Impaired Friendly Approaches for Teaching Braille Quran Basics Reciting Skills. So this is the outline of the presentation. At first I would like to tell you about the background information, and then followed by the problem statement, research objective and research question, and then the methodology. Okay, for the background information, Braille Quran is a Braille version of Quran which uses the Arabic Braille code, and visually impaired or VI is a blind person. Visions level less than 3 out of 60, or visual field less than 10 degrees from fixation. And third, visually impaired friendly teaching approaches is a teaching approaches that is specially designed for teaching a visually impaired person. And then the problem statement. The problem arises when the model used for this typical group is not within their capabilities, because the model does not take into consideration on the difference between all of the existing Braille writing methods as well as their inability to see. Second, the ability of the visually impaired group to read the Braille dots through stimulation surely different compared to the normal people. And third, the writing principle between the methods used as the basic syllabus must be corresponded with the writing principle for Braille Quran. Okay, we can see the ideal situation is suitable model for teaching VI or visual impaired reciting Braille Quran. And the problem is no holistic model for teaching visually impaired reciting Braille Quran. So the impact, it is difficult to teach the visually impaired person, and the possible cause is visually impaired have problem reciting the Braille Quran. Okay, as for the research objective and the research question, I start with research question first. Firstly, what are the required skills to recite the Braille Quran? Second, what are the approaches that should be applied in the process of implementing the skills of reciting the Braille Quran for the visually impaired? So the research objectives, first, to identify the skill required for reciting the Braille Quran, and second, to identify the approaches required by the visually impaired in the process of implementing the skills of reciting the Braille Quran. And then we will go through the significance of the study. So this study is significant to first for Quranic educational sector. This study is expected to provide the academic contributions towards the education sector, specifically for the visually impaired and the Quranic teaching generally, by proposing appropriate approaches for the implementation of the basic skills needed in order to recite the Braille Quran. And second, for USIM, University Science Islam Malaysia, this research provides a great value towards University Science Islam Malaysia, which offers Braille application course in the field of Quranic and Sunnah studies, where Braille Quran will be the main subject, and this is one of the university's main areas of specialization, along with the integration of Naqli and Aqli knowledge concept. And third, for the visually impaired, and this study will be a reference for the visually impaired, especially for Persatuan Orang-Orang Cacat Penglihatan Islam Malaysia (PERTIS), as they are the most important organization in publishing the Braille Quran. and teaching the Quran to the visually impaired in Malaysia. Besides, this study will also be indirectly publishing activities for the Kementerian Dalam Negeri (KDN) in unit kawalan penerbitan dan teks Al-Quran section, as it will act as a clarification for the related issues regarding the Braille Quran, especially in terms of its necessity and importance towards the user, which have to go through a reviewing and approval process before it could be used by the people with special needs. And then we go through the research scope. This research focus on which is the most ideal skill implementation method for the visually impaired in the process of learning to recite the Braille Quran, especially the one that published by Persatuan Orang Cacat Penglihatan Islam Malaysia Partis. And the study involved 7 participants who will be interviewed. The participant selection was based on their experience, proficiency, and their involvement in teaching and learning process of the Braille Quran in Malaysia. And the study used the document analyzation technique, which is the Braille Quran published by Partis, as the main subject, and a deep interview as conducted for collecting the data. So this is the conceptual framework. It will produce the skills and the approaches. Okay, for the methodology, I'm using qualitative approach. As the data collection using semi-structured interview. Research participant, I'm using purposive participants, and I also do data analysis by thematic analysis, and the analysis tools I'm using Atlas TI. So I will also use triangulation method. First, I'm using a semi-structured interview, and then it will triangulate with text analysis. And then lastly, for the population and sampling, as I mentioned earlier, the limitation only on 7 participants is to enable more organized and thorough study, because the study used the qualitative method, which is an in-depth study, and also to gain control the factors, especially on the data authentication. Other than that, the chosen participants are representing a variety of experience, in which 4 of them are the Braille Quran teachers in government-based school, which is SKPK Princess Elizabeth Johor Bahru, SKPK Kuala Terengganu, SKPK Alma Pulau Pinang, while the other 3 are the Braille Quran teachers at the Education Centre of Adult in Pertis Kuala Lumpur, Pertis Terengganu, and Pertis Pahang. And that's all from me, Doctor. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.